I got my swatches out, you know what that means. It's time for another marker comparison review type thing. Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at a affordable brand of markers which I have reviewed before. So it's not going to, I will link to that review of the Artisa Everblend markers in the video description so you can see them in action and get a little more information on them. And I've used them in videos too, so you've probably seen them in action that way. But the reason I wanted to come back on here is to compare the different sets that are out there in case you are considering picking some up. I don't want you to go and buy like a couple of sets that end up having a lot of duplicates basically. So let's just take a look here at how they come, what you have for different options. This swatch here is for the original set of 60 markers, and it comes in a little marker case. This is the one I reviewed originally. There's a lot of really good colors that will blend together, and I thought this was just such a nice, small, tidy little case. You have room for 12 more markers, and here's some examples of how they blend. They're just lovely. I think this is a really great set to get started with. So I know a lot of you probably got this set, and then you're wondering, well, what do I do now? There's a set of 120, which I'll show you that right here, that comes in a really big, heavy case. And I'm just going to push these up a little bit so I can show you a little bit more. So this contains the colors from the 60 set. I think it has every color from the 60 set. I just compared all of my swatches. And then when I put them in the case, there is extra room. This case is for 144 markers, and is there 72? No, it's 120, right? 120. So there's 24 extra spots, so you could put other pens, fine liners, or other alcohol markers to fill in your gaps if you bought some open stock. They do sell open stock markers in packs of 4, which I don't think is really that. You don't want 4 of the same color unless you're teaching, I don't think. So I don't really like that. I'm hoping they'll offer individuals. They are starting to sell replacement nibs for the fine and chisel tip ends. So I'm hoping that inks are coming soon so you won't need to buy another marker. And, you know, just keep reusing the plastic barrel that you have. And I just grouped these according to how they blend, and I actually made little swatches and put them on the markers, just taped them on there so that I would just have a better, accurate idea. And this opens up so it lays flat so you can see what you have at a glance, and I think that's really nice. The case is a little heavy when it's all filled like this, so what I did was I ordered a empty case for my 2 new sets of markers, the 236 sets. Now please keep in mind you don't need to have this many, and Artisa did send me these markers for free for a review, so I'm not a crazy person that just goes and buys tons of markers willy-nilly. So these are the 2 of the Artisa Everblend markers, the 2 new sets of 36. One is a skin tone set and one is a grayscale set. So I swatched these out, and you would definitely want to swatch your markers out on the paper that you typically use so that you will have an accurate view of what your markers are going to look like on the paper you like to color with. So if you like to color on Georgia Pacific cardstock, swatch your markers on that. If you like to color on Nina, like I do, I swatch my markers on that. If you prefer marker paper, you know, render versus a regular marker paper, swatch it on what you're going to use, because then you're going to get an accurate result and you're going to know what to expect. So take a look at the skin tones here. There are no duplicates in the skin tone set and in the original 60. So if you already have the 60 set and you're looking to expand, you're not going to have any duplications. And you do have some colors that will go nicely with the neutral tones that you have in the original 60 set. When I swatched these out, I grouped them up by what I thought would blend well together and swatched them in rows together just to help me when I'm looking for blending combinations. I think that these 2 together make a really nice companion. Now, if I'm comparing this to the 120 set, there's actually only 3 of the same colors, only 3 duplications. So there are quite a few nice neutral tones here, but you are a little limited on the skin tone range, so this does fill it up quite nicely if you do a lot of portraits. If you don't do a lot of portraits, you're probably going to be fine with what you have here for the neutral tones. But if you want to expand, that's definitely a good way to do it. Now the grays, for instance, there is some duplication. You've got 5 duplicate colors in the set of 60 with the grays. And these are the grays here that you have. So it is, I should have noted on this, it is, I think not... There's no 155, so that color is not in the gray set, but these two, and that one are in the gray set. So you actually have a fairly decent range of grays if you want to do some like shading and you don't have enough different variations of the primary colors here to do that. You've got a decent variation of cool grays here. So if you're trying to decide between what next set to get to go with your set of 60, I would go with the skin tones because, you know, you do have a few grays there. The grays in the gray set I feel like are more than just grays. They are grays that have some green in them. Like these are very green. You've got grays with blues in them. Like those are all very blue. You've got some stone type grays, like really warm grays. So I think this set of grays, you will probably want to bundle them up or put them together with how they're going to mix, because just because they're gray doesn't mean they're going to mix together. You have a lot of different tones like these two. Actually, the numbers help because the numbers are close to each other. Those two are going to go really well together. So, you know, definitely swatch it because you could have a little challenge with the grays, whether they're warm, cool, green-based, or blue-based. And you will find 25 duplicates from this set in the 120 set. So if you already have the 120 set, I think I would recommend you skip the gray set because, I mean, there's only 11 colors that you don't have there. And you have a really good selection of cool grays and warm grays already. I think I would just stick to the 120 set and get the skin tones if you do a lot of portraits. And if you don't do a lot of portraits, you're fine with the 120 set. And if you have the 60 set, you're only going to have 5 duplicates in the gray set. So if you find that you need a lot of neutrals, then that's a decent option. So what I did, I'll show you how these come. So you can kind of see the trays they come in. Now, what I'm hoping that Arteza does, and I think I might suggest it to my contact over there, is offering a bundle. They should offer both of these two sets together with a marker case for the same price as the 60 set. I think they probably would too. I'm going to suggest it to them. So if that happens, I will put that link to that product in the video description. But the trays are all right. You can see what you have. You could definitely store them in these, and it doesn't take up a ton of space, but I think it's a lot easier having this sitting on your desk, and then you can lay it on its side if you want to store them horizontally, or you can have them in your case so you have the fine tip down, because I find that it's a fine tip that's going to dry out quicker than the chisel tip. That said, I use a chisel tip a lot if I don't have a brush tip on the marker because it fills in area really good. It's really good to blend, and I find it really useful. So I will be taking them out of these trays and putting them in this case. So why don't I do that and then come back with some final thoughts. Okay, I've put the markers in the case, and I also want to talk about pricing. So again, this is the 120 set that I showed you earlier. The price on this at Arteza is $118.89, and I have a 10% off discount code in the video description, so you can get 10% off that, which would roughly be like 12 bucks off. And Amazon has it for $129.89, and sometimes they have coupons on Amazon. You'd have to check both places before you ordered to see what the best deal was. They do have free shipping on Arteza for orders in the USA anyway. This set here, the 60 assorted, is $69.99 at Arteza and at Amazon, same price. And again, coupons, you know, check both places. And also check both places for sales, obviously, before you're going to order, because that is a good chunk of money. And the 36 sets on Amazon are $37.99 a piece, so that would be the grays or the portraits. Those are separate. And on Arteza, they're $30.99, so a big savings if you're getting these to get them at Arteza. And again, you get the same free shipping as you would on Amazon. So, you know, there you go. So I put them in this marker case, a 72 case. It's like what the 60 set comes with. So when I was talking about the bundle, I wasn't even thinking that there's 72 colors between the 236 sets. And there's only 60 colors in the 60 set. So maybe they have to charge a little bit more for a bundle. But I'm still going to suggest it to them because I think that would be really great. They do have a 144 marker case, which is what the 120 set is in. That is, it's kind of heavy. I have to say I like these smaller cases better. The smaller case on its own is $26.99, and the larger case on its own, which holds twice as much, is $36.99. So it's a better value to get the bigger case, but I like the smaller cases better. You can do whatever is more useful to you, or just put them in a box. You know, store them however you want to store them. But I do like these smaller cases, and I think if I was going to go to a crop and want stuff to color with, bringing these two sets, I feel like, or these three sets, I should say, the 60 set and 236 sets, I would have a really good range. Or if I got the 120 set and brought that with me, that would be a good range. I guess it would depend on when I was coloring and if I was doing a lot of portrait stuff. But yeah, so I wanted to just get that information out there so you could see the different color ranges, the prices, and you could make a decision if you're looking to invest in some markers, because I know this brand, Arteza, definitely caters and appeals to a more a younger group and a group that might be beginning in a certain medium. Their quality is high, their customer service is really good, and that's something you want to consider if you're buying a set of markers. Are there going to be replacements available? Will they stand behind their product? All of that sort of thing. So far, Arteza, for the past couple of years, I've been working with them. I've heard only good things from viewers, and I've had great experiences with them. But I always have to weigh my experience with a grain of salt, because they're reaching out to me as a quote-unquote online influencer. I hate that word. So they're obviously going to be really, put their best, foot forward when they're talking with somebody that could potentially influence buyers. But I've also heard from viewers that they've been really good. Like, there was this one woman who bought the 60 set, and then the 120 set came out like the next week, and they just, they credited what she already paid towards the new set. And I thought that was really good. They didn't have to do that. I thought that was really good. Oh, one other thing I want to mention, on Instagram, Arteza had said a couple months ago that they are going to bring in brush markers, so you might want to wait. They have replacement chisel and bullet nibs for these markers, but I didn't see any brush nibs last time I checked on their website, so I don't know if they're just going to bring in the nibs that you would just replace in your markers, or if they're going to come up with a whole new set of brush markers. It's been a while. I'm sure they're trying to find something at a good price point that's a good quality, because brush markers vary so much. There are some that are fantastic, and there are some that fray after a few uses. So I'm sure they would want to find something that's good. They haven't come to market with any really awful products, and any products that I don't really care for personally. Like, I'm not as crazy over their watercolors as I am the artist grade watercolors I have, but for the price, they're really good. And their gouache is fantastic for the price. So I really can't complain. I mean, you're definitely getting more than what you pay for. So I just want to put that out there. These don't have brush tips. If you are, and this is something else I want to talk about, because I've heard before of many stampers that have bought like a more budget brand of marker, and then went ahead and bought Copics anyway, because they always wanted Copics, and they just always pined for them, and they always thought that what was wrong with their coloring was the fact they didn't have Copic markers. If you are somebody who's not going to be satisfied with anything but Copic, then just save up your money and buy Copic. Buy a couple at a time, or save up until you can get a basic starter set, and then add to it as you go. Because if you just know you're not going to be satisfied with anything but Copic, then there's no point in you buying any cheaper ones, because you're probably always just going to think that if your coloring isn't up where it needs to be, it's because you don't have the right marker, which I think is nonsense. I have Copics. I tend to reach for my Arteza ones just as often as my Copics, and it's more about just learning how to work with your markers and learning the skills, because the ink between any of these markers is very, very similar, almost identical. It's just getting the tones that you need to blend with, and tip preference. Brush tips are wonderful, but I learned how to color with Prismacolors, so I've always been fine coloring with a chisel tip. I use a chisel tip a lot, and if you are struggling because you don't have brush tip markers, and you find yourself always using the fine tip point, use your chisel. Use your chisel for the majority of the coloring, for basing stuff in, then just use a fine tip around the edges. You are going to see a huge difference. So if you already have markers, these are not going to change your life. These are another brand of good quality markers. Using what you have, learning to use, learning how to blend. For goodness sake, swatch your markers out. That is going to make more of a difference than anything you can buy. Swatch what you have, and that could be Sharpies and Bic markers and a handful of open stock markers. That's another thing. Say like you have gotten into markers and you've started off with a pack of the Bic markers or Sharpies, or any sort of vibrant budget brand of markers. Then you might want to skip getting the 60 set, get like the portrait set, get the gray set, because those are going to have those really, really pale shades that you're going to need to get those blends and to get natural looking artwork. So don't rebuy what you already have. If you already have like a set of 40 markers from like any of the companies I've reviewed in the past, and they're mostly vibrant shades, then get the earth tones and the grays. You can mix and match them. They don't all have to be the same. I use a combination. Like if I'm using my Copics, I probably have, because my Copics are in a rack with my Prismacolors and my Blick Studio markers and my Azure markers. They're all, because they're all ones that I have kind of like no cases for. They're all hodgepodge. I'll grab, whatever shades I need. I don't just use Copics or just use Blick. I have much better results if I mix them up because I'll have a larger variety of colors. So you don't need to rebuy what you already have. If you're looking at this saying, oh, I've got colors that are like that already, then don't buy this. Look at the colors you don't have, and getting them in a set versus individually is a big saving. So if you're like, I have no skin tones, I have no earth tones, I have nothing where I can like color a fox or a person's face, then the portrait set, that's going to serve you so much better than buying this, then saving up for this, then saving up for that. Get what you need. It's going to be different. All of us are going to have different needs. So look at what you have and look at what would add to that collection and make it more valuable for you. And for goodness sake, mix and match your brands. You can go into the craft store and buy a couple shades of brown, buy a shade of blue, buy that one shade you're missing in whatever brand they happen to sell. I will tell you, craft store brands, your chisel and bullet markers, if it's like a store brand, is usually a better bet. I heard that like the Artist Loft brand is getting better, but yeah, if you're not sure about a brand, get the chisel bullet tip, because they're going to be a safer bet, because a lot of times the store brand brush markers do tend to fray. So yeah, I know it's kind of rambly. There's a lot of random information. I don't want you to go and buy something you already have. Obviously, I just wanted to show you what the options are from Arteza, because I got these 2 new sets in, and I think they're fabulous. I was really happy that they expanded these individually so people could add on to their 60 sets and just get what they needed and not have to rebuy something. So there you have it. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them below. I will link up to everything I mentioned down below, and that should help you decide if you need anything else, any of these markers or not. Thanks for watching as always. Until next time, happy crafting.